Hey, Coach, appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, Allie.
We'll get started here with Rube and then Chris Franklin. Rube, you're on mute.
Hey, Nick, you'd think I'd learn by now. Um, Obviously we all know your relationship with Frank and I guess in a two-part question, kind of number one, do you plan to bring him in any kind of role? And number two, when you do add a coach in the middle of the season in general, I guess what goes into that decision to kind of change the staff a little bit on the fly?
You know what, Rube, it's obviously very early, with everything that's going on, and so I haven't even really thought about that quite yet. As far as bringing somebody in the middle of the year, what goes into that a lot of times is familiarity with the person, and so that's what goes into that quite often is the familiarity with the coach, the relationship with the coach. But I'm not there yet. Obviously, obviously we're just finished up our evaluation of our game and just starting in on San Francisco.
Go ahead, Chris, and then Dave.
Afternoon, Nick.
Hey,
The
Chris.
last couple few games, you guys have had some issues when it came offensively in the first half. What do you attribute to those issues, and where do you think you guys need to fix it? Is it something scripting? Is it other stuff that's happened that's causing these issues?
Yeah, I mean, you give credit to the defense, and of what's happened. We haven't started the way we've wanted to start. Obviously we look at all that stuff. Always want to start fast. We've traditionally these last couple years have been a team that has started fast. So I'm not hitting a panic button by any means. I think we've been pretty good on our first drive. We've been pretty good starting in general, but obviously these last two games. But I get it. You're judged off your last two games, not the whole body of work sometimes. And so we'll make sure we're working hard to as coaches to put the guys in positions to succeed. Not just scripting. I think a lot of times what happens because you ask scripting, and so that's gonna mean play calls and all that stuff. Like it's design of plays too, right? And so when a play doesn't work, and we put it on ourselves as coaches, it's not just about the play call. It's about the design of the play. And so in our detail of which we go about teaching it and instructing it. So anytime I take something like, hey, that's us on coaches, like I'm not speaking of play calls. I'm speaking of sometimes it's the play call, but sometimes it's the design of the play and which goes into that. So we'll look at all that and we'll be better.
Go ahead, Dave, and then Tim.
Hey, Nick, after how much talk there's been about Jordan Davis, really from the time he got drafted, about his conditioning level, how impressed were you to see him play not just 62 snaps in that game, but to have the gas left in overtime to chase down Josh Allen?
Yeah, he's worked really hard. We've been on him about his weight and his conditioning, and he's been on himself about his weight and conditioning because he knows how important. I think before I say that, Jordan has this. He wants to please people, right? He's a great teammate. He wants to please his teammates. He wants to please his coaches because that's the type of person he is. That's a good quality to have, and so he knows how much we need him. In the best shape of his life. So he's worked really hard at that. He's worked really hard at getting his weight of what it needs to be, his body fat, what it needs to be, his conditioning of what it needs to be. And he's always in a work in progress, but he's really worked his butt off. And I think that showed big time yesterday with the amount of reps. Obviously 95 plays for an offense to have is an awful lot. And then with some of our defensive tackles being banged up, he stepped up and had a nice game and played a lot of plays. And so that's a product of how hard he's worked. And he's had to work really hard at maintaining his shape. And we'll continue to expect him to do so. And I know he'll continue to do so because again, he doesn't want to let his teammates down. And that's one of Jordan's best qualities.
Go ahead, Tim, and then Jeff.
Hey, Nick, you have a decent sample size now of working with Brian Johnson as offensive coordinator. What makes him unique as a coach and a play caller?
Yeah, again, I just think it's he's just calm in all scenarios. He doesn't, whether the things are going really well, or whether things aren't going so well, he just stays in the moment. I think he's very steady. You can tell that he has played quarterback at a very high level. Because that's what you look over at Brian in certain situations, and he's stoic, and he's just the same guy the whole entire time. He'll have fun and enjoy a touchdown, but he's also just thinking about the next play and the next series and all those different things. I just feel like that is a calming factor to everybody when Brian's calling plays, is that demeanor that he has. Again, I obviously wasn't good enough to go to Utah, played at Mount Union, but I could see how calming he would be in a huddle when everything's on the line, because he would have this. It's a calming confidence. He's confident. He has a calming presence, and I can see. And I really think that's a really good quality that Brian has.
We'll go to Jeff and then John.
Nick, with Devontae Smith, his production has been very high these last 5 games, and I don't necessarily want this to be a why isn't Devontae getting more targets question, because I know there's a lot of variables that are play at that. But why isn't Devontae getting more targets when you look at his numbers the last 5 games versus the first 6?
Obviously Devontae has to share target counts with AJ, with Dallas. Those we're still going to always run it through those guys. And now there's some things that are planned with DeAndre as well. And so he always is going to have to, with this team, he's always going to have to share that target share. And so that, that doesn't mean we don't design things for him. I think you've seen the last couple games that he's gotten even some more opportunities with Dallas out. But he's always going to be a focal point on our offense, because we know how good of a football player he is and his playmaking abilities. So, I think right now that we have the target share the way we envision it. Is that going to be a perfect science every time? No, there's going to be some times that he has more targets than AJ, and there's going to be sometimes AJ has more targets than him. But there's no doubt about it that he's a big-time playmaker in our offense, and we have a lot of good playmakers in our offense. And so it's a challenge to be able to get them all the football, but we're it's a good challenge to have, because the options are obviously, you feel good about your play calls anytime it's going to number 6, number 11, number 88, number 0, and I'm not even mentioning the other guys that like Julio and Quez and OZ made a huge play yesterday, and Kenny, all right, and Jack Stoll made a huge play. We just had a lot of contributions from a bunch of different guys yesterday, but you feel good about it, about the play call when it's going to number 6.
Go ahead, John, and then Brooks.
Hey, Nick. You were kind of talking about play design a little bit earlier. The walk-up play that looked pretty good to the naked eye to us. Is that, I know you don't like to give away a lot, but is that, when you look at that play, is it DeAndre selling the motion? Is it Kelsey recognizing what the defense is doing? What makes that play work so well?
I think yes to both of your those responses, and that's the beauty of football, right? Is that it takes everybody. It takes all 11 guys working in unison, and it takes Devontae running off on the opposite side and getting number 31's back turned to the play, where he can't react back out to make a play. It takes the down block by Jordan Mailata to take his guy and physically put him on the other side of the hole. It takes the down block by Landon. It takes the cutoff block. Cam, if you notice on the play, Cam does a good job of getting himself in front of the guy. Now he falls to the ground, but he stops that lane of the guy coming and crashing, right? It takes not only the motion timing by Jalen to snap it at the right time, but also the threat that DeAndre is on that motion, right? It's like, who is that guy on motion? Oh, there better be attention going over there to zero because he just made a huge play the play before. So it's all those, and it takes, the guys who are in on that play. Jack Stoll was the number 3 receiver. Julio was the number 2 receiver. AJ was the number 1 receiver. It takes them having a good block on the perimeter the other times that we've run that bubble play and that bubble on the swing screen. And so, that's what's awesome about football. It takes everybody. And I didn't even mention Jason and Jalen obviously had 2 of the most important parts. Jalen had to get skinny through the hole, and Jason had to wrap around and kick out block, which he does so unbelievably well. And it was just great. I really just, with the combination of Jordan and Jason creating that hole in that lane there, that was a big time play. That'll be a play, that I sure will remember for a long time. I'm not sure I've ever been on a team that has won in truly walk-off fashion in the NFL. I know that there's been plays like, last year at Indy, we scored with Jalen on a play, but then we had to go out and play defense. I know there's been times where our defense has picked the ball off on on one of the last plays, but then we had to go out and take a knee. And so there's a lot of those. I'm not sure I've ever been a part of one where it's truly a walk-off. And shoot, that was awesome. I mean, I got to feel what like Bryce Harper feels when he gets a walk-off home run, or Mike Trout was in the stands yesterday, what he gets to feel. And though that was really, really cool, really, really special, a memory that I feel like I will be with me for a very long time, to be able to celebrate with our guys off of a walk-off. And again, and I'm rambling here, but it just speaks to the game of football and how awesome and how beautiful this game is, that it takes everybody, and how cool it is to be a part of a team. It's special. It's really, really special. And it was electric in that stadium last night, and no bigger moment than that play right there. Thanks for asking that question, John. Sorry, I ate up into about 3 other people's questions.
Go ahead, Brooks, and then Zach.
That's right, Nick. There were times in the game where Darius Slay was shadowing Stephon Diggs. There were times he wasn't. The interception came when he wasn't. What did yesterday reveal to you and Sean about the adaptability of your secondary?
Yeah, I thought our corners played an outstanding game. So much high praise for Stephon Diggs. He is a phenomenal football player, and it was fun to watch him in person. I don't know if fun's the right word. Shoot, like, he's a really good player though. Shoot, but Slay did a nice job, and there again, sometimes I think that's exactly what you said, Brooks, is like sometimes it is to shadow him, sometimes it's not. You don't want to give a beat, to the defense. Same way you don't want to put AJ in the exact same spot every single time so a defense can take him away, or Devontae. And so they all have to play different roles and different coverages and different spots. And we have a good veteran secondary that's continuing to come together. We're going to want plays back from yesterday, but they are still learning to play together with Kevin, getting everybody lined up back there. And but I think that we showed that Slay and James particularly showed that they can go different spots and play different roles. And they have, and that's what makes them good players, and that's what's made them good players in the NFL for a long time now.
Go ahead, Zach, and then Jimmy.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick.
Is that
In knowing how obsessive you are about game situations, what were your takeaways from the last 40 seconds of regulation?
Yeah, shoot, there's a lot of situations to think through there. Really, when we got it down there and we still had 2 timeouts, I'm thinking, hey, there's a pretty good chance we can score a touchdown here and end this right here. But obviously we had a couple things go against us, that are a little bit that were obviously unfortunate. You know, and again, there's constant communication of, okay, if this ball's completed here, this is what we're doing. If it's not completed here, this is what we're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a lot of good back and forth on our coaching staff talking through all those things. And that's what you prepare for, right? That's the obsession and the attention to detail that you prepare for throughout each and every week. A scenario that almost came up yesterday that didn't is a scenario that you prepare at nauseum about, and I've probably only had 2 of them in my entire career as a coach with them. And one almost came up yesterday. It didn't, but we were ready to go in that circumstance. What was really special is just we had the false starts, and Jake still was able to tie the football game because of how clutch he is. We lost some yards there, and Jake was still able to put it on his leg to send the game into overtime. And again, another special team moment where, the camera zooms in on Jake fist pumping, but it took the entire 11, right? And it took the snap by Rick and the hold by Braden. And those guys worked so hard together to make sure that fundamental of the snap, hold, and kick all is seamless to them, regardless. And when you work that hard that they work on that particular skill and that particular fundamental, then it doesn't matter how big the moment is, and that's partly Jake too. Like he's clutch, but they've done it so much that they know how to react in any type of moment and any type of condition. And what a big time kick in the elements that we had yesterday, because it was a steady rain, as you guys know, throughout that entire game, and sometimes that rain was heavier than others. Felt like the wind shifted a little bit when Coach McDermott called the timeout, and shoot, Jake just figured it out and made a big time play.
Is the situation that you talked about, rushing the field goal unit onto the field with no timeouts?
That we would rush our field, yeah. Yes,
Okay.
that is Zach. Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously that came up versus Buffalo, Denver versus Buffalo. And it comes up a lot during the season of an NFL season. And it came up twice in the Denver versus Buffalo game. As we know, I think the only time I was ever a part of that type of scenario was in 2016, the San Diego Chargers at the Cleveland Browns. And then I don't want to relive the rest of that moment. You guys can look up what happened there.
Go ahead, Jimmy, and then Olivia.
Hey, Nick, that Jake Elliott kick aside, it was a big day for the special teams, and it's kind of been like that all year. What do you attribute what I think is a significant improvement from last year to this year?
Yeah, our guys are playing lights out. First of all, I think Coach Clay has done a phenomenal job. He's just continued to grow. This guy loves football. Coach Clay loves football. He loves the process of football, and he's just obsessed with getting better. And I really think that, he's grown so much in 2 years. And that was very obvious that he would, based off of just everything we had heard about him, my interview process with him. And he just continues to get better. And his staff, Tyler Brown and Joe Panunzio, they do a great job with him. And so it was, I give them a lot of credit of how hard they work at getting the guys better fundamentally, scheme-wise, all those different things. And then the players are just playing outstanding football. We have a lot of different guys making plays. Patrick Johnson had a huge tackle yesterday that was a violent hit at the level of the ball that could have had an opportunity to jar the ball loose on that. If you look at Britton Covey, his big punt return, you're going to see Keely Ringo have his gunner almost out of bounds, way far away from Britton. And going back to Britton, I'm like, I think to myself, I can't believe we cut this guy at one point. This might be the best returner in the NFL. And he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Like, he's special. We know we have a weapon with Britton Covey. We know we have
Twice, by the way, you cut him.
I'm sorry?
Twice, by the way, you cut him.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, yeah. And shoot, as crazy as we were to cut him, there was 31 other teams crazy not to pick him up. And so we all make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes, but he is a stud. Like, I constantly ask our coaches, I'm like, is Britton going to be first team All-Pro? Is Britton going to be in the Pro Bowl? I'm on a mission to make sure that happens, because he is special. But he's special because, again, it goes back to this unbelievable team game we play, right? And Josh Jobe getting his block, and Keeley getting his block, and I mean, it was awesome. It's just awesome team game. And but like I said, there's just been so many different guys that have stepped up. Sidney Brown, as he's running down, like, he's flying down there to make plays on coverage units. And then, I think our captain on special teams is Jake, and we already talked about his contributions. Oh, how about we go to the physicality on the field goal block unit, where, BG and Jordan create a little lane right there and push back a little lane, and Jalen Carter gets the block, right? And so it's just been a great team football, led by Coach Clay, led by the guys that are having unbelievably highlighted years. And again, I don't mind singling them out: Jake Elliott and Britton Covey and Josh Jobe, and Keeley's really starting to come on. And so it's just been great individual efforts and team efforts by our guys, and really good coaching by Coach Clay and the group.
We have time for two more, so we'll go to Olivia and then Bo.
Hi, Nick.
Olivia.
Zach Cunningham has assumed a really important starting role in the defense, especially with Nakobe Dean going down. What is your level of concern regarding Zach's injury and his status for this week? And if there is some concern, what options are on the table for you going forward?
Sure. First, let me say that Zach is one of the most physical football players I've been around. He really, you really notice his physicality when he's out there, and he's tough. I know again, haven't seen him today. I know our trainers have. I haven't talked to our trainers quite yet, trainers and our doctors. But I know that Zach will do everything he can in his power to play, and that's just the way he's been since he's been here, as far as his physicality and toughness. And so, obviously, he's important to our defense. He's important to our team. So I'm hoping that he's ready to go. Options, I think we have good options. I think you saw that yesterday with Christian Ellis came in, had a couple of really nice plays. Ben's been coming on. And so we feel good. We feel good about our guys on practice squad, and we feel like we have some good options available to us. And we'll take it day by day this week and see what happens this weekend.
Go ahead, Bo.
Hey, Nick, maybe related to that, but you may not be able to comment on potential interest in Shaq Leonard, but I guess, what are your most vivid memories of being in the building with him when you guys were together?
Yeah, man, he can make he made a lot of plays. That's for sure. He had a knack for the football, and how to get the football. I think what I remember is just how, as an offensive coordinator, how hard he was to throw around. His length was like comparable to Jim Boeheim's 2-3 zone at Syracuse. I mean, he's gonna make a play in the passing lane. So that's, I guess he was a great teammate, and I really enjoyed being around him. I still have a relationship with him. I think nothing, but I think he's, a great person, great teammate, and like I said, the main thing was the ball and the length that come to mind with that.
Thanks for your time, Coach.
Thank you.